what to believe? You're traveling into the Parabnormal, where the truth is not tainted.
I'm Jeremy Scott from the cold, dark depths of a secret dungeon somewhere deep in the remote Pacific Northwest. It is so good to have you guys with us back again for yet another show somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. I am Jeremy Scott, and tonight on the program, we're going to talk about what else? Well, of course, we would have to talk about the Omicron, or as it was first called, Omicron, or as some people are saying, oh my God. See, it was only a matter of time before a new variant of COVID-19 was discovered, and that variant was discovered in South Africa right before Thanksgiving. How convenient. And since then, it has spread to dozens of countries and at least 4 states here in America. And by the way, those cases were all in, at least those here in the States, were all in people who were vaccinated. And so that should tell you something. Now, much like we've been told over the course of this pandemic, as we are now about ready to go into the second full year of this, it didn't take very long for those contradictions to begin. They are definitely in full effect. Is it serious or is it not serious? Should we panic or should we not panic? Will the vaccines work or will the vaccines not work? Personally, there are just too many unknowns with what we've got going on right now for my comfort. But those who want to wait it out and see what happens should be allowed to do so without persecution. Right? Those who have reluctancies should be allowed to do so. But there's only one message being sent. And that only message is to get vaccinated. That's the only message, is to get vaccinated. They're not giving people choices, those who may have antibodies against it, those who have had COVID. So the only message is to get vaccinated. So my question is, what's really going on here? You would have to agree that this whole pandemic seems fishy, wouldn't you? We already know that the goal is total eradication. And even though the medical experts say it is impossible, they still want no cases. The flu over time has recirculated seasonally, but do you see lockdowns and mandates over that? What about the great HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria outbreaks? Why were there no mandates for those equally as serious diseases? If you don't hear this number anywhere else, remember where you heard it. Around 2.5 million people died last year from those 3 diseases: HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria. Did we shut down the economy? Did we ruin livelihoods because 2.5 million people died from those diseases? Now, I am not trying to minimize this at all. I'm trying to get people to think for themselves and to wake up and to understand what is really going on here. Because if you care about lives, you should care about the 2.5 million people that died from HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria last year. Or do we not care about all lives? Do we only care about certain lives? Those in certain age ranges, demographics, skin color, race. What about those who died from COVID, or those who they said died from COVID? Could it be that it is not about a virus, but it is about a means in which to control, global control, in fact? I mean, just take a look at what is happening in other countries. The COVID-19 hypocrisy, friends, is running amok, and it has spread globally. It has spread more than this virus ever could. Locking down the vaccinated, much like getting vaccinated, does not stop this weak virus. But you know what does? Herd immunity. But why is that not even part of the equation? If we really want to solve a pandemic and get through something, we do it through any means necessary. We don't just push one method unless there's an agenda or there's a control means behind it. Germany is considering a lockdown for those who are still not vaccinated. Even though the vaccinated can still spread it and still catch it, just like I said, the first few cases in the U.S. announced this week were people who were vaccinated. Greece is finding those over the age of 60 the equivalent of $114 a week if you're not vaccinated. But only those over 60. Why? Only those vaccinated above 60 can spread the virus? If you believe that, I've got some oceanfront property to sell you out here in the Pacific Northwest. So I guess it's really not so bad being an American, at least at this point in time. But just wait. It has been nearly 2 years of this back and forth. But finally, more eyes have been opened to this global control agenda that is at play with the conspiracy theories we've talked about on this program for almost 2 years. Our first program on this was January 2020. And here in December 2021, those conspiracy theories that we've talked about are becoming less speculation, and they are becoming more of a reality. And that should alarm anyone more than a low mortality virus. Will you bow down to Omicron? Are the talking heads still gods in your mind? Will you let your business be shuttered? Will you allow your kids and your grandkids to be isolated again? Will you repeat this whole stay home, stay safe charade? Or are you becoming woke to the reality that this is just another means to control us? It simply amazes me at how people are just rinsing and repeating during this pandemic. I mean, we are literally right back to where we were when we started. People are jumping off of sidewalks because they're so deathly afraid of coming in contact with someone. People are back to wearing their masks outdoors. Maybe they never stopped. Even when they're by themselves, they wear their masks inside their own car. And runs on the limited supply of what is left at the stores has already begun. Mind you, much more expensive than it was in early 2020. So did we not learn anything from the first, second, and third go-round of this? I think we've learned an awfully lot. I think it's time to wake up. Lives have been ruined. Will you let it continue? Tonight on the program, we have an all-star lineup. Deborah Tavares and Elana Freeland together on the same program. Deborah of StopTheCrime.net tirelessly researches documents and is known for her direct activism and speaking out about the realities our world faces. Much of her work involves in-depth research and extensive studies to back up what she talks about, and you've heard her do exactly that on this program. Elana Freeland, a writer, a ghostwriter, a teacher, a lecturer, who researches and writes on deep state issues like the 7 geoengineering operations, MKUltra, ritual abuse, targeting, and invasive electromagnetic weapons. Her latest book is Transhumanism: How the Environment Has Been Weaponized by Chemicals, Electromagnetics, and Nanotechnology for Synthetic Biology. Two of the most smartest ladies and the most respected guests I've ever had on this program are right here now for you together. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Deborah Tavares and Elana Freeland. Good evening, ladies.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, and Elana, thank you for also being part of this program tonight, because we face so much ahead of us. And I guess I'll cover a few things, and then I know Elana will too. So just jump in anytime, Elana, okay? So
Yep.
I know you will. I know you will. So I'm going to cover a myriad of topics this evening, and Elana and I have spoken about these topics, and so I need to broaden the brush of what we face so that we can understand really the enormity. It is a rather horrific reality that we find ourselves in, and we need to emotionally prepare for what's ahead. I know that many of you may know by now that the UK has a scientific advisory group that has announced that COVID troubles will last for 5 years or more, and that vaccine testing might continue for a decade or more. If you don't know about that, well, now you do. I also want to cover something that you may not know about. I covered it a few years ago, and I will go over it now. Elana, I spoke with you about this. This pertains to global disease surveillance platform for sewage treatment worldwide. Now, back in 2018, when I discovered this story, I did a show on this, several shows actually, and it's a joining together of Chan and Zuckerberg with Bill Gates. And what are they joining together? Well, back in 2018, they created a biohub, and they launched cloud-based global disease surveillance platform. And it is a partnership.
Sorry about that, Deborah. Go ahead.
By both the Zuckerberg and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And they announced this soft launch of ID sequencing. And the ID sequencing platform began as a research project in the University of California in San Francisco at a lab that they created called BioHub, B-I-H-U-B. And it works by rapidly combing through terabytes and metagenomics and data for tracing of pathogens, whether bacteria or virus or fungus or even parasites, by identifying disease-causing pathogens in our wastewater and sewer treatment systems and plants. Now, when I first discussed this a few years ago, it was just getting launched. Well, now it's fully launched. So, and it's in the process of coming to your town if it is not yet. Let me talk to you about who is behind this so that you understand the severity of the surveillance now with your excrement, your fecal material that you flush down your toilets. The intention is to locate, in their opinion, false or otherwise, and false, the areas that they want to lock down. For example, when I first broke this story a few years ago, they were looking at, for an example, a city of 60,000 people or a town where the sewer trunk lines go into the wastewater treatment plant, and then they would test there. And then they could potentially lock down that entire area because the individual identification of homes was not, they weren't able to locate the direct homes. Well, now they're launching these in schools. Now, I want you to think about this. Envision what I'm going to be telling you right now. I was watching videos on this launch in grade schools where they're literally using robots and the equipment that they have to pull off some of the wastewater from their treatment plant or their sewer system before it literally goes into the city wastewater treatment plant. So they've got these plants located on school campuses. They're testing them about every 15 minutes to a half an hour. And they can literally locate the buildings and the areas where potentially they've identified somebody with a disease. Now think about this. I was watching little children as this was being tested, and their excitement over seeing that it seemed like their campus was free of diseases for that moment. But think about how this is going to become a targeting technique to go back to the parents. And Jan, I'm certain that, Elana, you want to comment about this, because I will talk about the agencies involved so you'll understand the enormity of what we face and the funding. Much of this funding is coming through COVID funding and through the CDC. and they talk about the federal partnering framework for the wastewater surveillance system. And they will be also testing for SARS, COVID-2, and the virus that causes COVID-19, and Omicron, which is what they're saying. And they say since SARS and COVID-2 can be shed in the feces of people with symptomatic or asymptomatic infection, wastewater surveillance can capture data on both sides of the infection. In addition, depending on the frequency of testing, sewerage surveillance can be a leading indicator of changes in COVID-19 burden in a community. They're really likening this to the swab testing because many are not doing that. So they can literally get in and test your wastewater treatment plants. And they say agencies across the federal government are now partnering to support a coordinated federal effort, including management and operations to assist state, tribal, local, territorial communities to implement procedures for wastewater-based COVID-19 disease surveillance. And they have a framework, and this is on the CDC website, by the way. So you can just type in the CDC partnering for wastewater surveillance. And they show how the framework is going to be set up through the National Sewerage Surveillance Interagency Leadership Committee. And some of their agencies that they are coordinating with is, and I'll go over this list, it's unbelievable. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Department of Health and Human Services, the Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, United States Geological Survey, National Institute of Health, National Science Foundation, and Department of Veterans Affairs. There are also private non-governmental stakeholders as well, and some of those include the Association of Public Laboratories, the Association of State and Territorial Health Officials, Council of State and Territorial Epidemiologists, and the National Association of County and City Health Offices. We are being onslaughted up on. And as I looked at the agencies involved, which are, of course, all corporations, and the CDC is as well, it's to make profits, and doesn't really serve as an agency for our health. It sells vaccines. That's what it is. That's what it does, and I've spoken about that over the years.
Hence the name Centers for Disease Control and Injection.
Yes, exactly. So we go on into the NIH. They're going to be used for rapid acceleration of diagnostics. And the EPA, again, these are all international foreign-held corporations that have taken over the system in our government. We're USA Inc., we're Earth Inc., and these are all corporate agencies that have now taken over this country. Make no mistake. So they say, what other federal agencies and resources are available on COVID-19 sewerage surveillance? And the SARS-CoV-2 sampling and testing activities and related research support. So again, the EPA. Research on COVID-19 in the environment. This is for the EPA. Now, I want to add something here. I recently read an article that in one of the states, I believe it may have been Idaho, but don't quote me on that, they are now saying that deer have been found to have COVID-19 and that they have gotten infected from humans. Now, this is a cover for the prion disease, and which is brain eating. That's the mad cow disease. And I cover that extensively, but we'll get into it a little bit more this evening as well. But it's most important to understand that what is happening is a national wastewater surveillance system, and we're going to be paying for it. So they have a problem with testing. Some of the problems are there are people on septic tanks that are not part of the wastewater treatment system area. They're also highly chemicalized treatment plants that are turning that water into reuse, which is either to use on irrigation, and or now they're trying to process it so that we can drink it, which FYI was an executive order by Trump where there was to be more wastewater treatment plants being built in the United States, and now we're seeing it worldwide, to treat our water so that when we get into a drought, we don't run out of water. We can drink our treated, literally our treated fecal and urine from the wastewater treatment plants that have pathogens of undetermined
eating our own
pathogens,
feces.
actually. Absolutely. Yes, that was part of a executive order. But getting back to the CDC and the National Wastewater Treatment Surveillance System, it's very important how easily it's going to be to shut your community down. And it's a disease tracker, and it's backed by Gates and Zuckerberg, and they say they're tackling COVID-19. So we can just imagine how they're going to be tackling COVID-19 and all the other diseases for us that are likely bioweapons that they themselves are involved in manufacturing. So that's going to lead me to another topic. Elana, did you want to make a comment on that?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Please go ahead, because then I will read an executive order and get into another document. So go ahead, Elana.
So this sounds completely like epigenetics, and epigenetics is part and parcel of eugenics. This is, again, as in the my recent book, Geoengineered Transhumanism, this is utilizing the environment as a lab. And certainly by having a sewage water treatment, not only can you check for diseases, supposedly, but whatever you're putting into the inoculations of people can be followed this way as well.
And we are the test subjects. We'll continue with Elana Freeland and with Deborah Tavares. Oh my God, on Into the Parabnormal. I'm Jeremy Scott.
Abnormal News, this is Daniel Brewer. This is not the kind of history NASA wanted to make.
2 astronauts were set to replace a broken antenna, but NASA said the risk of being struck by debris was too high. This was actually the first time a spacewalk was canceled because of the threat of space junk.
Nora O'Donnell of CBS News reported this week NASA was notified of incoming debris headed towards the orbital outpost that could adversely affect a planned spacewalk to replace an antenna that lost its ability to send signals to Earth. The spacewalk was delayed 2 days until the space junk passed. It was the 13th of the year and 245th since the ISS welcomed astronauts aboard in 1998. NASA did not say if the space debris was from an anti-satellite weapons test by the Russians that forced astronauts to take shelter just 2 weeks earlier. Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. This is Daniel Brewer, Parabnormal News.
Omicron.
The Omicron variant.
Omicron.
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 The Omicron variant.
Omicron.
Omicron variant.
The Omicron.
Researchers are now working around the clock to learn more about the new COVID-19 strain.
There's no reason for panicking as we don't see severely ill patients.
This variant is a cause for concern, not a cause for panic. A cause for panic.
We knew that it was just a matter of time before the first case of Omicron would be detected in the United States.
Omicron's very emergence is another reminder that although many of us might think we're done with COVID-19, it's not done with us.
Sporting a tinfoil hat and looking dang good in it. Into the Parabnormal with Jeremy Scott.
They want you to bow down. They want you to bow down to the Omicron. They want you to let it control you inside and out. They want it to tear you apart and everyone you know and love. Question is, will you let them? You have the power. Are you going to surrender your power, or are you going to keep your power? 2 ladies tonight who I highly respect on this program, Deborah Tavares and Elana Freeland, on the whole control agenda that is at play. Back to Elana, who was talking about the vaccine specifically and how literally we are test subjects. I think that's what you were getting to, Elana.
Well, it was the use, what Deborah was saying about this sewer treatment thing, the latest part of turning the world and society into a lab. If they're controlling, as I maintain in my new book, Geoengineered Transhumanism, if they're controlling the chemical trails in the sky that are delivering nanoparticles and nanobots, nanorobots that we are breathing in for use in what is being called precision medicine or telemedicine, then it makes sense that they're going to control the other side of it. They're controlling the GMO production in the fields, and they are controlling the vaccinations, so-called, the inoculations. So now they're going to do the other part of the experiments to see what our waste products have to report as to what they're injecting into people, either through aerosols or through the GMO, genetically modified foods, or through the inoculations. So yeah, it's all part of controlling every aspect of our lives. And that is what I meant in the first book, by full spectrum dominance. We are just being contained. It's like turning the planet and Mother Nature into a beaker or a petri dish in order to pursue their dreams and nightmares of transhumanism. is how I look at it. Now, Deborah, you brought up the possibility that they would use that to target certain areas of the country, certain communities, certain individuals.
And certain people. Yes.
Yes. And that certainly could be as they find out how it's going there. But remember, each time that people are inoculated, those are all different batches. They're already checking to see what batch does what with what population. And this is completely under a canopy of eugenics.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. I wanted to add this so that you understand the enormity of what is happening with the fecal testing, the wastewater treatment testing. This has been on the agenda here in Sonoma County, where I am just north of the Golden Gate Bridge, for a number of years. I've attended some of the meetings. And so what is this? They're changing the septic rules. So for those of you that live in rural country areas and you are on a septic system, watch out. I will tell you, you want to start literally defending your property from on-site investigations of your septic systems because of the new rules that are starting to emerge. So let me go over what this looks like here and what you can expect anywhere else. Now, I will hear all the time, people will say, well, Deborah, this is just happening in California. We're going to move somewhere else where they're not doing this. Mm. Well, I always assure everyone that's listening, wherever you are, if you are in the state of Washington, in Olympia, for example, all you would need to do is type in Olympia, Washington, followed by climate action plans. And they're generally about a little under 200 pages, some are more. And you will find out what your local jurisdictions have adopted for you without your understanding and received grant money to push agendas through that are diabolical, absolutely diabolical, and feed into the agendas that we are now all seeing emerge so rapidly now. So let's talk about these septic rules that are changing. They're going to commence here very soon 5-year inspections as part of a plan targeting waste in watershed areas as a result of new septic rules. So here is what they're doing. And this is what's going to happen. I'm going to be talking about the Russian River. For many of you, just think about Bohemian Grove. The Russian River flows along the side and in the area of Bohemian Grove from Sonoma County out on into the Pacific Ocean. So this is what's happening now. There's going to be thousands of property owners on the watershed area of the Russian River that will be accountable for ensuring their septic systems operate properly through a 5-year inspection aimed at controlling bacteriological contamination from human waste. And the new requirement is part of a controversial plan. You bet you it is. I sat in at the meetings, and I saw the Board of Supervisors act as though the people that were there in tears, knowing they can't afford $80,000 to potentially meet the requirements of new septic systems. In other words, these people are going to lose their properties. They won't be able to market them. They are non-compliant, and they won't be grandfathered in. And while at this meeting that I attended, the board that was representing the illusion that the citizens had a say in this had voted on it 2 months earlier. It was already a done deal. So when I was up at the dais, I told everybody this has already been approved. You're here for really psychological venting because this is going to happen. So let's talk about this a little bit more here. The plan approved unanimously by the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board affects thousands of property owners in designated priority areas along the main stem and certain tributaries. The property owners with septic systems within 600 feet of a river or mapped streams or 200 feet even from seasonal streams in these areas must now have their equipment inspected, and they must meet all codes of the new septic regulations. So inspections are to identify a substantial number of defects among the old and aging septic systems and leach fields located in rural areas. Now, this is also called the WUI, the Wildlands Urban Interface. This is the area of the wildlands map where they want to relocate people out of these areas. The Russian River area is known as one of the most affordable areas here in Sonoma County. And those folks out there are in very small lots that go right to the river's edge and flood often as well. And I can tell you, many of these properties and the owners are going to lose their land. And this is going to happen to all of you because these are going to go throughout the entire nation. This is full water control. And I will get into that a little bit more in a moment, but I did want to go over an executive order and relate it to the diseases that in the NASA war document they refer to as fingerprintless diseases that are legal. So let's talk about this executive order 13295 dated April 4th of 2003. It's a revised list of quarantinable communicable diseases, and this was an executive order signed by George W. Bush. Here is the executive order. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution, now I can't just stop. We have a corporate constitution. We do not have a constitution that people believe we have. That's most important. So I'll try not to stop because the president is the CEO of the corporation called USA Inc., listed on Dun & Bradstreet doing business. And for those of you that don't understand that, I'd highly recommend you get the book, America's Last Minuteman, written by James A. Trafficant, who's now deceased, and or Fruit from a Poisonous Tree, written by Melvin, M-E-L-V-I-N, Stamper, S-T-A-M-P-E-R. Get those books and take a look, and you'll understand we are a corporation, and we don't have any acknowledgement by our city councils, which is why so often now we're seeing people go to their, even the school boards and the health agencies. They don't understand they're all corporations. And I will see parents on videos, well-intended, during their 3-minute allowed discussion to their school boards, voicing their concerns on the health implementations. And they don't realize that there is nothing the school boards can do. It's all a corporate structure. So getting to this executive order 13295, dated April 4th of 2003, by the authority invested by the President and the laws of the United States of America. And then there's some sections, including Section 361B of the Public Health Service Act. It is hereby ordered as follows. Based upon the recommendation of the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the Secretary, in consultation with the Surgeon General and for the purpose of specifying certain communicable diseases for regulations providing for the apprehension, detention, or conditional release of individuals to prevent the introduction, transmission, or spread of suspected communicable diseases. The following communicable diseases are hereby specified pursuant to the section of the Public Health Service Act. Now, I hope you caught the key words in that, which say apprehension, detention, and conditional release of individuals. I will continue.
What is the condition?
Here are the various diseases that they're citing in here. Cholera, diphtheria, infectious tuberculosis, plague, smallpox, yellow fever, and viral hemorrhagic fevers called Lassa, Marburg, Ebola, and South American and others not yet isolated or even named. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, which is a disease associated with fever and signs of symptoms of pneumonia or other respiratory illnesses, is transmitted from person to person predominantly by the aerosolized or droplet route, and if spread in the population, would have severe public consequences. I'm not going to read the rest of these paragraphs here, but you can pull this up, Executive Order 13295. What I am going to read to you right now is on page 51 of the NASA War document that is posted on stopthecrime.net. This is a cliff note. This is very important because this was presented as a PowerPoint only 2 months before we were hit with 9/11 by the chief NASA scientist at the Langley Research Institute. And on page 51 it says, often fingerprintless, scattering of bioweapons. And they say bioarchipelago, which means scattering of bioweapons. They go bacteriological, fatal to disabling, viruses, short to long-term in scales, prions. Now, prions is mad cow disease. And I will add this now. It's prevalent throughout the animals in this country and worldwide. I just posted on stopthecrime.net on our Odyssey video channel one of the most important definitions of prion that you will ever hear. And sadly, it is one of the reasons that misdiagnosis of Alzheimer's is taking place as well. But going back to page 51 on the NASA document, they talk about parasites, fungi, carcinogens, direct and undetectable, and multiple ways in which they use these fingerprintless weapons. Toxins, they go on hormones and regulators for biohacking, natural genomic, which is our genes. And then they talk on page 52, something interesting they say, bioweapon possibilities. And this goes back to the silent weapons type of warfare that we're in and engaged in. And many can see this, and sadly more do not, as it seems. Page 52, aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is a fungus that grows producing a poison causing cancer. And this is a bioweapon. Airborne varieties of Ebola, Lassa. Now, didn't I just read to you in that executive order, Ebola? I did. And Lassa? I did. And they talk about variety of agents distributed via imported products such as vitamins, clothing, and food, and genes of individual societal people targeted, just like what Elana talks about, and long-term fingerprintless campaign, as opposed to shock and awe, is the use of biowarfare. In other words, long-term, fingerprintless, as opposed to bombs. This is what they say. Now, of course, there's many more pages in this document. I will just go over page 53 because they talk about an existing biocomative, which is the Venezuelan equine encephalitis. They say it is ideal because it incapacitates. It is a bioweapon agent. It was weaponized by the U.S. and the USSR in the 50s and 60s, easily transmitted via aerosol, highly infectious, low fatality rate, 1 to 5 day incubation, 3-week recovery, tested on humans in Operation White Coat, no treatment available. So I know you'll have something to say about this, Elana, so please do. Whoops. Hello?
I think we lost Elana. I'm still here with you, Deborah. Give me 1 second.
Well, let's just keep going, and I know you'll probably try to get her back.
Should we have her right now? Go ahead, Elana.
Oh, okay,
You're back with us.
I'm back.
Oh, good. Did you hear what I was talking about with the executive order in the pages in the NASA War document?
Yeah, but I was very impressed by how I was completely cut off.
That was that was one of those 3-letter agencies. They were responsible for that.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, you're
okay,
back,
so
and
no,
I'm glad.
Deborah, I didn't hear. No.
Well, then I'll just have to talk to you off air at some point and go over that with you.
Yeah, sure.
The bottom line, though, of what I was talking about, and just a quick recap for everybody that's already heard it, I went over an executive order that was signed by George W. Bush that discussed the types of quarantinable communicable diseases, and there was a list in this executive order. And much of what is in this list of this executive order is listed as a bioweapon and aerosolized in the NASA War document. And I read some of the pages in the NASA War document and compared it to the types of quarantinable, communicable diseases in this executive order, all lab-based, okay? That's what they're saying here. So basically that's it in a nutshell without the exact readings. So if you want to make a comment there, because I know that many people are kind of poo-pooing the idea of these diseases, and we do know that they are creating bioweapons in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, but I think even more important is they have actually changed, just as they've changed the definition of a vaccination, they have changed the definition of a lab. And the lab now is not in vitro, which means in a petri dish or a beaker. It means in vivo, in life forms. This is the lab now. And this is
we're the lab.
We are the lab. And they have a plan for the next, as you said, Deborah, next 5 to 10 years. And so they're setting up for running the lab with, meanwhile, on the on this this COVID escapade, which has nothing to do with to me, virus has nothing to do with virus. It has nothing to do with bacteria, other than the fact that they can gain a function, weaponize these things that they pull from people's cells, and then they can adjust what they're delivering through the aerosols from the air. They can adjust what's in the water. They can adjust what's in the GMO foods, and to me, ever since they discovered that Hydra vulgaris in the serum, and I think that indicated to me that they are utilizing the in vivo lab, that's us, as a means of being an experimental
guinea pig
solution in which they can create and test out what are called inorganic life forms. And there are patents on the inorganic life forms. This is all patented. And so to me, the Hydra vulgaris sort of gave the clue as to the fact that there will be many, many, not just nanobots and nanotechnology in the serums, but there will also be entities that they are creating out of plasma, out of nerve endings, out of virus detritus coming out of the cells. I mean, you know, it's playtime. It's playtime for the Frankensteinian masters of the universe to utilize our blood system that they are now taking over.
It's no wonder people are saying, oh my God, Omicron? Deborah Tavares and Elana Freeland, my guests on Into the Parabnormal.
News not from the mainstream. Parabnormal News with Brad Bernards is coming up. Only on Into the Parabnormal.
What you believe might not be. Step into the zone of the best unknown. UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, conspiracies and cover-ups. Into the paranormal we go.
What's really the truth? Into the paranormal, separating fact from fiction.
I'm Jeremy Scott, my guest, Deborah Tavares, Elana Freeland. It is an information-packed show tonight. It may be hard for some to handle that this is not all about a virus. It's about a vaccine. It's about a control mechanism. And I want to get back to Elana, who was telling us about the control of our blood. And the whole time I've been thinking during the break, well, it wasn't too long ago that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was pulled because of the threat of blood clots. And I'm just wondering, Elana, if what you just spoke about had anything to do with that.
Well, I think it's pretty much we all are going through over and over again the various things that are affecting our blood, and that would include the graphene oxide, which now we learn is actually graphene hydroxide, and a scientist has, in my mind, definitely been murdered for saying so, because he was an expert on carbon nanotubes, and he knew what was going on. And for me, having been friends with Clifford Carnicom for many years, I remember when Clifford told me that not only were they changing the atmosphere with the chemical trails, but they were also changing our blood. And I think this is part of the transhumanism as well. So what is being inoculated into people, I am certain, is not only dangerous, but it is completely about taking over the blood. Recently, the CDC has admitted that Morgellons, which is what the scientist Clifford Carnicom discovered and isolated and was able to really look at and take all the way up to the margin of a patent, but was prevented by various people and three-letter agencies. He discovered that the Morgellons was actually not a skin disease, as the CDC would like us to think of it. It was a blood disorder. And now in the book I've just written, I make a connection between the Morgellons, which was the precursor to what is being injected into people now with the hydrogel and the graphene oxide and the quantum dots. So yeah, our blood is under assault. And when you look at Rudolf Steiner, I just want to throw this in there. Rudolf Steiner is very clear that the blood is an amazing, unique substance that is very to our immune system and being human. And I mean, yes, it is central, pivotal. And so an assault on the blood is, what can I say? It's an assault on the humanity of the human being.
Deborah, I'll let you take over in just
What's interesting about the blood is they're still actually calling for blood banks, and you can have had the clot shot, or however you'd like to call that, and go ahead and give blood. I want to just say a couple of things. On stopthecrime.net, if you sign up, we do email blast outs. And Elana had just spoken about the doctor that was murdered. And we sent that out as an email blast out with the talk that he gave just prior to then being arrested. And you can actually see the live arrest. So if you go on to stopthecrime.net, look for the tab email blast, and you can pull this up. and basically in short verbiage about what he described, because I recently got a very interesting comment from a very good friend of mine talking about the development of word speak so that people just really aren't aware or befuddled by how things are being said. And so I tried to really articulate this in very layman's terms, and he completes his discovery with what you can hear on the video. So go to stopthecrime.net to our email blast outs, and you can read murder ? Dr. Andres Nowak, razors in the jab tech slicing our veins from within. So what he was talking about is he was referring to Austria being the first to mandate the kill shot. Yeah. And it has now been confirmed that there are razor blade type elements in the kill shot that are slicing our blood veins from within. The tech does not degrade over time. The blades work quickly in athletes due to blood flow. That's why we see so many dropping dead during sporting events. Austria is leading the forced kill shot mandate. The doctor in the above vid was murdered soon after attempting to get the information out. So you can watch the video that he did and then the video where he is actually being arrested. And I also wanted to point out, I run the website primarywater.org, and Elana was saying how they're using our food, the GMO, the atmosphere, and everything else, and the water. And I want to get into water in a minute, but I just want to bring this into the conversation as well, because I've been doing reports on the gamma radiation and how there's evidence that we're being attacked within the United States by the corporately owned nuclear sites, and that there are deadly levels of radiation, and it's being covered up. Of course, it's being covered up. And cesium-137 is deadly. And so I have a gamma radiation chart in front of me, and it lists some of the cities that are most severe with the highest rad counts. Now, all the cities are severe, but these are the highest. Colorado Springs, Colorado, Raleigh, North Carolina, Portland, Maine, and Little Rock, Arkansas. And you can go to stopthecrime.net to our vid, and I've posted this. This is put out by Bob Nichols. He is a Project Censored Award winner. He's a former correspondent for the San Francisco Bayview newspaper and a frequent contributor to various online publications. He reports on war, politics, and the 2 nuclear weapon labs in the Bay Area. He is writing a book, and it's based on 20 years of nuclear war in Central Asia. He is a former employee of an Army ammunition plant. So you can actually subscribe to his website and get the updates. Bob Nichols. His site is duweapons@gmail.com. duweapons@gmail.com. It's most important that we all understand the methods and the many methods that are being used in this laboratory that we're all finding ourselves in, that they're testing on us, and radiation is absolutely one of them. And I would like to jump into something else. I would like to cover water in a few minutes, but I want to address an article that Elana sent to me moments before we got on air, and it's entitled "The Covert Electromagnetic Error, Domestic Use of Directed Energy Weapons for Political Control" by Elana Freeland. Now, for all of you that sign up on stopthecrime.net, that will be an email blast out. So, again, you can get this. I'm also posting it on my website as well. Very valuable, important information. Probably, Jeremy, you need to have both of us back up so we can do another show and get into more of the types of attacks. But I will draw your attention to page 50 on the NASA War document. And there are many documents. I know Elana is familiar with them as well. But they're in just easy speak on page 50 of the NASA War document. It says effects of low-powered microwaves. And they refer to the U.S. Army Walter Reed report, which I have listed on my resource documents on Stop the Crime. It's a document I've referred to many times over the years. But they know about the behavioral performance degradation of the extremely low frequencies. and the seizures. They say it causes seizures and gross alteration of brain function and lethality. This is in the NASA War document on page 50. Now, there are solutions to reducing some of the low frequencies on our solutions page of stopthecrime.net, but I would really like to move on because we have a real water issue looming in front of all of us now. And many of you may have been reading the headlines of what is happening here in California. They're not allowing any water allotments as requested by some of the water agencies for this season, and it started now. So this is going to be massively reducing the food supply, of which California is known for with the breadbasket in the Central Valley. They are really looking to collapse the food supply, and they are. In the recent drought, of which we've only had 2 atmospheric rivers, which is what they now call the new term for managing a rain dump overhead, an atmospheric river, that literally almost flooded out some property that some dear friends of ours own, only 6 inches and they would have been underwater, red tagged, and people would have had to vacate the building. This is the kind of situation that's happening now, of course, across the entire country. So one quick thing I will say about that, if you're living in a community where you are on city water, what I would certainly do is I would check the water areas that drain the rainwater from the area to make sure that the city has not allowed those areas to become clogged. There's some intentionality and mismanagement of cleaning out these water drainage systems. And in the specific situation that our friends nearly lost their building, the building next to them flooded out, it's red tagged and vacated. And the concrete water drainage that the city must provide in order to issue building permits so the water will flow freely from the houses was clogged up. And because it was clogged up, the water rose, and that's what caused the flooding. So again, know where your areas of drainage are and take a look and see if they've been cleaned out. The cities are crying that they're out of funds. They can't manage that. In our situation, we've been in a drought for a couple of years, so they weren't thinking about that, but intentionally, this was not cleaned out. So I want to move into what we're facing with the water reductions here in California and in other states as well. Now, again, this goes back to this is not just a California problem. If you have property next to the Great Lakes, you're going to be running out of water. And this is part of a global takeover of privatizing the water supply. And what they're telling us here right now is no snow is anticipated for the state. They're going to be putting us in a snow drought. They call it a snow drought. And there is a recent study that is published in the Journal of Nature Reviews Earth and Environment, and it paints a worrisome picture for the potentially catastrophic consequences of a future with less snow, including the massive implications it holds for California and other states with the water supply, as well as crippling effects on soil, plants, wildlife, and even the increased frequency of wildfires and creating dust bowls. And they say, should the greenhouse gas emissions continue unabated, the study found winters of low snow and even no snow could come to a regular occurrence. So again, this goes back to what Elana's talking about. We're a laboratory, and we're being tested on water. We're certainly being intentionally relocated. We will be climate refugees. We will be moved into these smart cities that many of you may be noticing within your city growth boundaries. You're seeing lots of multiple-story housing occurring, and you may be wondering, well, who has the money to be building those things? You can go check, and generally they're out-of-state workers and out-of-state companies that are coming in and building out infill lots within your city. And they're not local contractors and builders. These are corporate aligned builders that work with the corporations to get these jobs, not your local mom and pop or your local contractor that could build out these buildings as well. But again, we're in a real water crisis, but we're not, because we have primary water, and that's why I run the website primarywater.org. Water is a renewable. We are not running out. We have plenty of water. And I have done many shows about primary water. In fact, Paul Power, who's the Hungarian water wizard, who lost his home in southern Oregon last year in 2020, and then moved to a property here in Northern California and suffered some health issues, also recently faced a car crash. So we're having some problems here with people that are speaking out.
Deborah?
Which is, yes.
Was that since the show we did with Paul?
Yes.
That was just a couple months ago.
This was just last week. Yeah, this was just last week. So what I'm saying is not to scare people, but we have to stand strong and firm, and we have to go forward every day, and we have to understand that, and I think, Elana, you feel the same way. I don't want to put words into your mouth so you can make the statement for yourself, but I am in defense of humanity, and everything I do will be to get information out in any format based on documents that will help people so they can survive longer in a world that is becoming more difficult to survive within. And there are definitely things that everyone listening can be doing to be less easy to be killed. And that's a decision based on what you know and how you respond to the depths of what you know. And Elana, I'd like you to make a few comments here if you'd like, and then I'd like to jump into some more documents here.
I was just cut off again. Hey, I'm going for a new record. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't hear any of that.
I think she heard most of it.
Nope, I didn't. I was gone, not for long, 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, you did hear that I was going to email blast out your covert electromagnetic area paper.
Yeah. No, I heard that, Deborah.
And so for everybody, please sign up to get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still, I wrote it in 2014, but whenever I look at it, it's still pretty good. It gives you the general categories of how. The only thing I would add to the directed energy weapon picture now is that because of the Internet of Things and the 5G system and the 6G system, which, by the way, is a done deal as well, that actually your home environment can be used as a directed energy weapon, just as the nanotechnology inside of you that you have breathed in from the air and eaten in GMO foods can also be used as a directed energy weapon. So what am I saying? Well, that's the title of my book, How the Entire Environment Has Been Weaponized, and that would include the internal and external. But regarding water, Deborah, I did want to say one thing. I don't think people realize that to run the wireless operations that are being run now, and just think about it, all the inoculated are being tracked and traced. That's a big load, and that's coming from the satellites, the Elon Musk and the Google and the Amazon satellites that are up there, thousands of these things. And so that's part of the radiation as well. But that is really very important as to why there will be no snow. It's like, anti-Santa Claus or something. But the snow that we have had in the past years has primarily been chemically nucleated. It is not even snow. Not even
That's right,
snow.
It's the plastic, it's the poly. Yeah.
Why do they do this? Because you've got to have a dry atmosphere for wireless operations. A dry atmosphere filled with nanoparticles. So it's very important for them to keep the atmosphere relatively dry, so they control all the water. Like when you get dumped by the atmospheric rivers, that's an engineered dump. But generally speaking, they make that a very short and extreme event, and then let everything dry up again, because they've got to have it dry for all the operations. I just wanted to put that in there.
I'm glad that you did, because we have been very heavily chemtrailed here. I've talked to people in other states as well. They're seeing massive chemtrailing as well. But I want to say this, because I discovered recently that 5G is now going to be enabled by all of the advanced metering infrastructure by our utility companies. Now, everyone knows Pacific Gas and Electric and all of your utility companies are run by foreign international banking cartels. And we identified Rothschild as being involved with the utility operations here in the United States and abroad behind the smart grid. The smart grid, of course, is for gas, for water, and electricity. And recently I discovered that, again, 5G will be enabling the advanced metering infrastructure of water meters, because they're deploying the wireless 5G water meters now in your cities and in my cities, and generally they're located in the sidewalk. So this will give the proximity needed for the range of transmission into each house. Remember, they were having a problem with the length of the wave that would literally be interfered with by shrubbery. And of course, since all of this has been discussed, I'm certain they've changed a few things. But back in the time when I was investigating all of that, and we were having conversations about that, the wavelength was rather limited. It couldn't go through buildings unless it was right there, right by the house. So they have an integrated system.
Oh, Deborah, that was the millimeter waves of the 5G.
Right.
Yeah, and so what they did is they've now put up the 6G along with the 5G, and the 6G is a terahertz.
A carrier wave? Yeah.
Terahertz. And it does all the penetration needed.
Okay, well, yes. Well, here's what they're saying. The integrated system of smart meters and the communication networks and the data management as advanced metering infrastructure, which is AMI, advanced metering infrastructure, is a dream for forward-facing utility companies and their architecture, and how it can reduce outages. It won't reduce outages. That's a sell on getting more increased frequencies in your neighborhood. They're attacking neighborhoods now. And they say that it will reduce electrical spikes. That is not true either. We're going to be in very lengthy power outages. Also across Europe and the U.S., the smart grids will be a vast network of power reading sensors, and they're paving the way for our future. And it is 5G for the Internet of Things, the solutions that will enable all the new applications that the utilities are literally deploying upon all of us.
A future where we're going to be saying, oh my God. Deborah Tavares, Elana Freeland, tonight on Into the Parabnormal.
Parabnormal News. I'm Brad Bernards. The U.S. scientists who created the first living robots say the life forms, known as xenobots, can now reproduce, and in a way not seen in plants and animals. Michael Levin, biology professor and director of the Allen Discovery Center at Tufts University, talks about the versatility of the xenobots on a panel hosted by the Wyss Institute.
What they in fact do is form a very coherent little proto-organism that has some surprising capacity. So it's motile, it's self-actuated, it can move, it can heal damage, as we found out and reported this week. It can actually replicate and make, under very specific conditions, make copies of itself, and many other things which we're only now beginning to sort of scratch the surface of what they can do.
Formed from the stem cells of the African clawed frog, xenobots are less than a millimeter wide. The tiny blobs were first unveiled in 2020 after experiments showed they could move, work together in groups, and self-heal. Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. This is Brad Bernards, Parabnormal News.
This is the first confirmed case of COVID-19 caused by the Omicron variant detected in the United States.
There is a strong likelihood that it is more infectious than Delta.
The new COVID variant, first identified last week in Southern Africa. It's called the Omicron.
The new COVID variant Omicron is spreading to a growing number of states.
The case from Minnesota was directly tied to the city of New York.
20 countries now have confirmed cases of the new Omicron variant.
The White House imposing new restrictions on air travel.
We're going to fight this variant with science and speed, not chaos and confusion.
From the cold, dark depths of a secret dungeon, somewhere deep in the remote Pacific Northwest, you're traveling into the paranormal with Jeremy Scott.
It's enough to make one say, "Oh my God!" I am Jeremy Scott. This is Into the Paranormal. I've got Deborah Tavares and Elana Freeland together in one show for you tonight. Are you convinced yet that this is a method in which to control us, to harvest us from inside out? Or do you still think that this virus is such a big deal? Ladies, final segment. It's up to you where we head.
Well, I just wanted to add a couple of things because I wanted to finish the metering, the water metering, and of course that ties into the global smart grid. But there are different types of meters, and this is a Badger water meter. So for all of you that are listening, you can call your local water agency and find out when, not if, but when they will be deploying the 5G wireless water meter. Now they will tell you it is not 5G. But when we actually receive the information on the type of meter that they were deploying here, it is 5G. And it is also the endpoint. It has a unique serial number and meter reading data, and they talk about how it will operate from advanced encryption off of the existing cell phone network also. So very important to understand what is being deployed upon you, because you will find that once you exceed your allotted use of water, which is coming, typically we had heard over the years that it would be reduced to 55 gallons of water per person per day, but that is now going to be decreased further. And they're trucking in treated water now to many areas for the purpose of watering outdoor landscaping. In other words, they're using the sewer waste water to irrigate outside landscaping in some cities, turning that sludge, toxic sludge, and they're turning these cities into Superfund sites. And I reported on that because Healdsburg here in Northern California, it had been using, prior to the atmospheric river that they created, had been watering to keep their large outdoor landscaping alive with trucks that were trucking in wastewater, sewer treatments. And we went there, my husband and I, and actually filmed it. It was like being in an Outer Limits sci-fi movie. It was horrific. And the people had to sign up for this so that the liability did not rest on the city. They had to put in these large plastic tanks and buy them themselves, along with submersible pumps and hoses. And once they took a delivery of about 500 gallons of this per week and no more, they were supposed to pump it out on their landscaping within 48 hours because it would get very thick and stinky, and different molds and fungus would grow on it, and it would clog up their submersible pump, and they would not be able to literally pull it up from out of the tanks. And we went and we watched this in progress. It was absolutely horrific. And so I want to just say that the purpose of the smart meters is, of course, we will all have massive increased frequencies in our environment as well. When I looked at the maps where the collection points of the wireless water meters were in one of the cities near me, I found that there were 4 collection points. So that means that in a city of a couple 100,000 people, the signals are pell-mell and going to these collection points. So again, to find out if this is going to be done to you, because it will, they want to manage and control your water as they do everything else. And so that's most important to understand. So basically we have to ask ourselves, should we just let everyone die, or should we get information out to people? And the electromagnetic energy, again, is invisible, so many people don't recognize it. But unlike the frequencies above light and ionizing radiation, governments and industry don't talk about the biological effects. In fact, there was a little-known law passed by a senator that prohibited the local town people from telling the city they could not put a cell phone tower in the city. This little-known law. And so we have been mired in deception and illegitimate laws. I want to also say that I've done some recent investigation on the Institute for Local Governments, promoting governments in your local levels. Very important. They're really and have been going local to literally take us over, and which is what they are doing. The Institute for Local Government has now partnered up with Bang the Table and Open Cities and Grancius. And what this is, they're designing digital services in all of our cities worldwide. And they use that word reimagining. So when you hear that word, you know that they are reimagining. They say reimagining your digital front door, a tale of 2 cities, and it's a webinar. And I'm posting that on my website. It should be up on my video channel. You need to watch this. You will be seeing how our cities are eliminating the nuisance of direct public input. Because remember, your cities are incorporated. It's an annoyance to give people 3 minutes. I have been shut down at not quite 3 minutes more than I can tell you. Many people are threatened of arrest if they go one sentence over their 3-minute allotment, and oftentimes, depending on how many people want to talk, they will reduce it to 2 minutes and sometimes 1 minute, where we have gone into San Francisco to discuss with Pacific Gas and Electric and only been given a few minutes to talk with a 2-hour drive each way. So I can tell you that cities are incorporated. They do not listen to you, and we have been taken over. There's a very important video I've posted on stopthecrime.net. It's an interview I did about a week ago. It's called Brain Eating and Biowarfare. Please listen to that, because I get into NESARA. NESARA is an acronym. It's NESARA. It stands for National Economic Security and Reformation Act. And I never really understood why Willie Nelson was always donating to charity for Farm Aid when he would sing. And so I suddenly then found out why, as a result of NESARA, which took place in the 80s and 90s, was a Supreme Court decision, a victory for all of us. but the bankers would, of course, never have allowed such a victory. And basically, it would have eliminated the Federal Reserve. I would say the best thing that came out of the Supreme Court victory on Nassara was that they went back and investigated how the United States was set up, and they went back to 1913 during the Federal Reserve takeover, and even before, and they recognized and created the Supreme Court decision based on the fact that it was very clear that the United States was being run by foreign international banking cartels and wealthy families. And while this was a victory, it would have dismantled the IRS, and much of our phony fiat currency would have been replaced by what they call a rainbow currency. In fact, they sent a military group, Delta Force, to Europe to get back all the stolen gold that had been ripped off from the United States. And they brought it back to the United States. It's now stashed, some of it in Cheyenne Mountain, some in other locations as well. But Nassara what would have allowed the restoration to an organic constitutional form of law, which we haven't had. It would have allowed world peace because the bankers were always involved in wars, and the military. And it would have abolished the income tax. They only would have allowed the excise tax to be a tax. And they would have also forgiven all the banknotes. And they called themselves the White Knights, and not the White Hats, the White Knights. And I have a description of this, two of these descriptions posted on stopthecrime.net. I would implore you, they're 3 hours each, I would listen to every second of this, only so that you realize likely why the kill system has exponentially increased now. When we look at the Deagle.com, certainly saying that there are going to be 80 to 85% of the population in the United States killed by the year 2025. We can see how this is occurring. We see, too, that we now have a national 988 number to dial for suicide hotline. In fact, all of our area codes here now have to be dialed in order to create and make a local call. We never had to dial our area codes before, but that was because they had to make room for this 988 nationwide suicide hotline. And the Deagle.com report talked about the reason for the deaths that were needed and sought after would be largely because of suicides. And we can see that massive unhappiness happening with all of the sorrow and sadness of how we're being literally taken out of society and isolated and literally imprisoned with these masks. In fact, Oregon right now is looking to mandate masks indefinitely. So we're going to see more and more of this happening, and we have to really find people that we can talk with and certainly harden up your homes and have the food and the water and the ability to live when the power goes down. It's not a matter of if. The grid is intentionally scheduled to go down indefinitely in different parts of the country, along with the increased forms of planned weather events like what we saw in Texas and other areas that were in the deep freeze for a while. In fact, Elana, I had some friends in Tennessee, and I was telling them about the polynucleated snow, and it was snowing in Tennessee during that time that they were having the severe weather events in Texas. And they went out there and they were able to roll up and make a snowball and hold a lighter under it, and it would not melt. It only burned. So people really do. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, actually, it doesn't even burn. It just turns black, and
that's what I mean. It's scorched. It got scorched.
Yeah, and it doesn't melt. Yeah, and
it does not melt. And I want to talk about the public safety power shutdowns because they're going to happen more frequently, as I mentioned. So I would really highly recommend, if you're able, to look at what that would look like. We suggest having a power outage party in your home. And that would look something like taping some of the switches in the rooms that you predominantly live in, so you don't inadvertently flip on the switch, because we're used to doing that, but tape them so you cannot. And don't use your water, because when the power goes down, oftentimes the water goes down. And you can't get hot water, because most of our water heating equipment has a electric igniter, and so it won't light. So you can't use water, you can't take hot baths, and you have no lights. So you need to live in that condition and make lists of what you will need when that happens, because it will. And many people will not survive, as we have seen in many prior events with power outages. And then, of course, we know that large-scale riots and looting occurs during those events as well. So it's most important to prepare what that would look like. Keep in mind, generators, many people have been getting generators. In fact, our utilities have been recommending that we have standby generators. But keep in mind, the emergency climate action resolutions prohibit the use of what they call fossil fuels. Of course, we know that our fuel did not come from dead dinosaurs, that petroleum is also a renewable, just like water. But nonetheless, you will not and likely not be able to get the different types of propane, gas, and other fuels that it would take to operate a generator. And if you are thinking of getting solar with battery backup, do not get the traditional battery backup that is recommended here in this country, because they are recommending the lithium-ion batteries. Those are weapons. They quickly degrade and catch on fire, and it takes a long while to get these fires out. And in fact, one of our local JCs here did put in a battery backup lithium-ion deployed system, and the fire department needed to have an exact map of where it was on the campus, and everything had to be marked so they could go there immediately. Much of our system is now weaponized because of the increased weather events, the bridges, the levees, the wastewater treatment plants, as well as the reservoirs, the dams, were built for a time and engineered under different weather conditions. Now, with the ability to amp up the weather and create such massive storms and directly target much of the infrastructure, our infrastructure is not going to hold up, and it's not holding up. And this infrastructure bill is not about, they don't want to utilize it for redoing our roads like many of us think. I was reading that, and they're stating that they don't want the cities and the counties to just get that money and spend it on road maintenance, because that does not follow the green agenda of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. They want that money spent on green jobs that are identified as green, and that is not creating a better infrastructure and road conditions for us, because they don't want us to travel. And I'll see signs around my county, because I'm in the wine country, and it will say we have world-class wine and third world roads, and we do. And we have increased car repair, but they want us out of the country rural areas. They're doing everything possible to eliminate water accessibility. And I will tell you that where I am right now, I'm in an area on a map that's designated for problems with the septic systems and seasonal creeks. So I will be able to tell you from the scene of the crime, because I'm right here, how that will look going forward, and the types of things that I know people will be doing to prevent that takeover from occurring. And so we're literally being taken down from the top and bottom up, and our water is being poisoned, massively poisoned. All the atmospheric water that comes from the enucleated opportunity of snow melt and everything else that they're dousing us with is highly toxic. So for those of you that know people on rural country properties, if you can get them to look at drilling while they still can, there are well drilling moratoriums now occurring, and we're in trouble with even being able to access primary water.
Okay, weird crap
Did I hear a break coming
on?
on?
No, there's weird crap happening, Deborah, and I'm just going to say this, that I don't know what's going on, but, I mean...
Well, we do know what's going on.
Well, we do, but we
don't.
Yeah,
for the same reason that my YouTube video channel was taken down in February, and why my website
and it's just
attack.
weird because the numbers on Facebook have just gone down and down and down and down and down as the shows go on, and we've never taken a hit like that on Facebook. I mean, we don't have very many views on YouTube tonight either, and that's why it's so vital that we have FM News 101 KXL, that we have 100,000 watts of the FM signal to get this information out there, that we have places like UNX Network, and that we have the digital podcast platforms, because without them, this information it just can't get out there because it just gets cut, you know?
I do know. I'm experiencing that myself for all the work that I've done all these years. And we just heard Elana was dropped several times during the program tonight as well. So we are definitely flying right over the target on everything that they don't want everybody to hear about. But a final thing about the water moratoriums, because I'm looking at the clock. There are water moratoriums, and it's at the will not serve level with the water agency. In other words, they're not making outright water well drilling moratoriums, or all the well drillers would be up in arms. No one really understands that it's now coming in through the planning department when you go to your water agency, if you are in a municipal water supply, and they won't be able to serve you. And we're in some very rough waters now, speaking of water, and we're going to have regulations that meet sustainability requirements of groundwater. And so, again, go to primarywater.org. Please understand what primary water is. We're not running out. And stopthecrime.net to our Odyssey video channel where we post all our shows, including this one, Jeremy. This will be posted there as well. And, Elana, we're looking at moments here left. Final comments?
No, you did great. You did great, Deborah. Thank you so much for that. And I just want people to know that the book Geoengineered Transhumanism is really crucial as a handbook to understand how the environment is being used against us as a transhuman move to turn human being 1.0 into human being 2.0, which will be a transhuman that has no protection of human rights.
That is officially the break music. It's actually the end of the show music. We have so much we could talk with these ladies tonight, but unfortunately we only have so much time on the air. So maybe we can have you back after the holidays in the new year and discuss maybe about what we can do to kind of guard against this. We've got 30 seconds, ladies.
Absolutely. I would love to come back with Elana. And for the moment, just everybody, please go to stopthecrime.net. Look at the video YouTubes that we're posting. A lot about Prion. A lot about what Elana's talking about with the exoskeleton systems actually being manufactured from within.
Thank you so much. Stopthecrime.net and ElanaFreeland.com. I'm Jeremy Scott. Good night, everyone.